Hello, it's another beautiful Friday afternoon. Good afternoon and welcome to TV Sapientia News Hour. My name is Oluchi Ojo Bamidele. Anambra State Government, through the State Internal Revenue Service, has arrested 6 illegal revenue collectors in Oka and Oye Farm settlements in Iwariam. Parading the suspect in Oka, the Commander Special Squad Anti-Illegal Revenue Collection in the agency, Comrade Nathan Obikwelu, said that with 4 of the suspects arrested in Oye Farm settlement, one Ikechukwu Ogugo was arrested at Iwariam Junction, while Vincent Kenechukwu was arrested at Ekoka Market, collecting illegal tools from petty traders. Comrade Obikwelu said they will be charged to court immediately to serve as a good example to others. He warned that the special squad will continue to move around the state to fetch out those tarnishing the image of the state government by defrauding Anambra people and other residents of the state. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu approves the conferment of 959 national honors and endorsed reforms to strengthen the funding framework for the Nigerian police force. This came as the president presided over marathon meetings of the National Council of State and Police Council at the State House, Abuja. Addressing the State House correspondents after the meeting, the Permanent Secretary of the Cabinet Affairs Office, Dr. Emanso Umobong, said the president approved the report of the National Honors Award Committee for 2024 and 2025, as well as special awards that were earlier bestowed by the president from January 2025 to date. Umobong noted that the current Honors Committee, reconstituted in August 2021 and chaired by Justice Sidi Bage, screened over 5,000 applications before recommending about 824 recipients for the 2024 and 2025 National Honors and 135 special awardees, totaling the 959 honorees. Following the Council of State session, President Tinubu chaired the Nigerian Police Council, where members approved major reforms for the Nigerian Police Trust Fund. The Minister of Police Affairs, Ibrahim Gedam, said the Council ratified proposals to repeal the reenact the 2019 Police Trust Fund Establishment Act to remove its 6-year limit and transform it into a permanent agency. Gedam explained that the Council further approved an upward review of the Police Trust Fund's allocation from 0.5% to 1% of the Federation account, as well as a directive to the Attorney General of the Federation to incorporate all resolutions into an executive bill for submission to the National Assembly. The federal government has directed all tertiary institutions to submit comprehensive reports on unutilized intervention funds received from the Tertiary Education Trust Fund within 30 days. It says sanctions will be imposed on institutions that fail to utilize funds effectively. The Minister of Education, Dr. Tunji Alausa, gave the directive in Abuja on Thursday during a meeting with the heads of tertiary institutions. Alausa expressed concern over the huge sums of TETFund allocations that remain unspent across universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education, saying the situation has stalled infrastructural and academic development. He also added that procurement plans must align with approved interventions and urged institutions to fast-track approval processes to avoid project delays. To ensure accountability, the minister said the government will introduce quarterly compliance reviews and capacity-building programs to strengthen project management and reporting. Delta State government has approved about 10 billion naira to offset pension liabilities inherited from previous administration. The State Commissioner for Works and Public Information, Charles Anyago, disclosed this yesterday while briefing journalists shortly after the State Executive Council meeting presided over by the Deputy Governor, Monday Onyeme in Asaba. Anyago said the disbursement is part of Governor Sheriff Oborewori's commitment to easing the hardship faced by pensioners and fulfilling his promise to clear outstanding arrears. The Commissioner explained that the initiative formed part of the administration's More agenda, which prioritizes citizens' welfare and seek to make life more comfortable for senior citizens who serve the state diligently. Aniago also announced adjustment to project timelines for 2 major flyover projects in Abo, Uromi Junction, and Ugeli being handled by Julius Berger, Nigeria PLC. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu has granted posthumous presidential pardon to the late nationalist Herbert Makule and a former minister of the Federal Capital Territory, the late Major General Maman Vatsa, alongside 15 others. The gesture formed part of sweeping approvals for clemency endorsed by the National Council of State during its Thursday meeting at the State House, Abuja. The president also approved pardon for 82 inmates, commuted 7 death sentences to life imprisonment, and reduced the prison terms of 65 others. Acting on recommendations from the Presidential Advisory Committee on Prerogative of Mercy, chaired by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Lateef Fagbemi. This was disclosed in a statement by the President's Special Advisor on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga. President Tinubu also pardoned 4 former convicts, including former House of Representatives member Farouk Lawan, Mrs. Anastasia Nwobia, Hussaini Umaru, and Ayinla Alanamu. Onanuga said they were pardoned to enable them to integrate into society, having demonstrated sufficient remorse. At the same time, the president awarded national honors to the Ogoni 4, Albert Bade, Edward Kobani, Samuel Orage, and Theophilus Orage. The House of Representatives has urged private sector employers to comply with the provisions of the National Health Insurance Authority (NHIA) Act 2022, which mandates all companies with more than 5 employees to provide health insurance coverage for their workers. The resolution followed the adoption of a motion sponsored by Felix Mweke during Thursday's plenary session. Mweke, who represents Eleme, Oyibo, and Tai Federal Constituency of Rivers State, expressed concern over the widespread of non-compliance with the NHIA Act by private firms, describing the trend as a violation of the law. He noted that despite the clarity of the law, many private companies have failed to enroll their staff in any health insurance scheme or remit the required contributions, leaving workers without medical protection. The Act makes health insurance compulsory for all employees in both the public and private sectors, requiring employers to contribute 10% and employees 5% of their basic salary to fund health coverage. Lawmakers supported the motion when it was put to a voice vote by Deputy Speaker Benjamin Kallo, who presided over the session. Following the adoption of the motion, the House urged the agency to immediately begin collation data on defaulting private companies and to sanction those found in violation of the law. The House also mandated its Committee on Healthcare Services to monitor compliance with the directive and report back within 4 weeks for further legislative action. Also, the House of Representatives has called on the federal government of Nigeria to prioritize education and skills development for girls, especially in crisis-affected communities. The House also urged security agencies and relevant stakeholders to implement measures to protect girls from violence and exploitation during crisis. It called on the Ministry of Women Affairs to partner with non-governmental organizations and other stakeholders to design and implement mentorship and leadership training for girls. The resolutions follow the adoption of a motion of urgent public importance titled Motion on the International Day of the Girl Child, with the theme, The Girl I Am, the Change I Lead, Girls on the Front Line of Crisis. And this was moved by the chairman of the House Committee on Women Affairs, Mrs. Kafilat Obara, at plenary. Leading the debate on the motion, Mrs. Obara said that in recognition of the International Day of the Girl Child, that the House knows that this year's theme acknowledges that girls are not merely victims of adversity, but powerful agents of change who possess the potential to shape their future and their communities. The National Council of State has approved the nomination of Professor Joash Ojo Amupitan, son, as the new chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. This was disclosed in a statement by the Special Assistant to the President on Information and Strategy, Bayo Onanuga. Onanuga said that President Bola Tinubu presented Amupitan as a nominee to fill the vacant position following Professor Mahmoud Yakubu's exit. President Tinubu told the council that Amupitan is the first person from Kogi North Central State nominated to occupy the position and is apolitical. However, council members unanimously supported the nomination, with Governor Ahmed Usman Ododo describing Amupitan as a man of integrity. The Gambian is set to hold its next presidential election on December 5, 2026, officials announced on Thursday. This was as President Adama Barrow's bid for a third term elicits mounting criticism. Barrow surprised Gambians earlier this year when he said he would seek a third term in office. The move is allowed under the tiny West African country's 1997 constitution, but had not originally been expected of him. After Barrow was elected in 2016, it was widely believed that Gambia would finally get a new constitution with presidential term limits. However, lawmakers allied to Barrow rejected a draft constitution in 2020 over a retroactive clause imposing two-term presidential limits that would have prevented Barrow from running again. 4 years later, the government drew up a second draft removing the retroactive clause, but that bill was rejected by lawmakers in July. French President Emmanuel Macron warns that expanding Israeli settlements threatens a Palestinian state and U.S.-led peace efforts. This was as France hosted Arab and European ministers to find ways to boost the Palestinians after a Gaza ceasefire deal was announced. Macron hailed the ceasefire deal as a great hope for the region, but said the acceleration of settlements construction in the occupied West Bank is an existential threat to a Palestinian state. While Europe has strongly supported the ceasefire efforts led by U.S. President Donald Trump, Washington and several European countries are at odds over whether it is the right moment to recognize a Palestinian state. And away from that, we move to sports, where Algeria has secured a 3-0 victory over Somalia and qualified for the 2026 World Cup on Thursday as Wolfsburg's Mohamed Amoura netted 2 goals. Riyad Mahrez, who assisted Amoura both times, also scored to bolster the win and make Algeria the first African qualifiers after Morocco, Tunisia and Egypt. Algeria led Group G with 22 points from 9 matches, 4 ahead of their closest pursuers Uganda with just 1 match remaining, booking their 5th appearance at the global showpiece next year. Still on sports, UEFA on Thursday denies ongoing talks with Super League promoter A22 Sports Management, but it admitted it had met the body after the promoter told journalists it was negotiating with UEFA to create a new Champions League format. UEFA acknowledged several public meetings between its General Secretary, Theodoridis, and A22 co-founder, Anas Lagrari, but said they produced no official results. There are no plans to change the UEFA Champions League format, UEFA said, having introduced a new format which came into effect from 2024 to 2025 season. The development comes after Barcelona president Joan Laporta, who has long been at the forefront of the Super League project, expressed his desire for an agreement with UEFA to pacify European football. And to end the news, here are the major news headlines. President Bola Tinubu has granted posthumous presidential pardons to the late nationalist Herbert Makule and the former minister of the Federal Capital Territory, late Major General Maman Watsa, alongside 15 others. And the Gambia is set to hold its next presidential election on December 5, 2026, officials announced on Thursday. Algeria has secured a 3-0 victory over Somalia and qualified for the 2026 World Cup on Thursday. And that was the TV Sapientia News. On behalf of the technical and editorial crew, my name is Oluchi Ojobamidele. Thank you for being here with us on TV Sapientia.